On this week's Gridiron Report, we have one Pistons win to go along with two losses and the full Detroit Lions draft haul. It's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all of your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT, G-R-I-T, for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports Podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, and these episodes get a little bit difficult when it comes to playoff time here in Detroit because we have so many different games and so many different ups and downs to go over since we last talked about the Detroit Pistons. During last week's episode, we only had our one game to cover in which they kind of got shell-shocked by the Orlando Magic. We've had three games since then. One of them, you had boots on the ground. I'm wearing my Detroit Pistons t-shirt. No big deal. I did see the very first playoff win in LCA history in person. But then the other two against the Magic down in Orlando were obviously more similar to the first game, in which we just kind of got ran out of the building, out-muscled, out-performed, out-physicaled. So all that to say, Detroit wins game 2, 98-83, and then they go on to lose game 3 and game 4, 105-113, and then game 4, 88-94. Let's start all the way back to the first game in which we hadn't covered, and that was the win back at LCA. The Pistons end up winning, and a game that, like, other than obviously we had the huge 30-3 run in the third quarter. Like, this is a game that was tied at halftime, I believe. And it was kind of the same that we started out the same exact way in our building too. The energy, just being there in person, it wasn't great. And I think that was because the team wasn't performing so well. But then that 30-3 run in the third quarter, like, the crowd came alive. It felt great. That was fun. Like, that was really the only fun time I've had during these playoffs so far. What do you think about that game that we won? Like, the only one we've won so far.
Well, I hear that third quarter, like, obviously I was just watching it on TV. It sounded very loud on TV. I hear from everyone, boots on the ground, yourself included, which, shout out to you, by the way, for being there and securing the dub finally. But I hear from boots on the ground that TV did not do it justice. Like, LCA was absolutely bumping the entire third quarter, the fourth quarter, like, multiple just big-time pocket picks, huge dunks, posterizing dunks, and the crowd was just totally eating it all up and was loud as hell. I wish that would, occur from tip-off. I also heard, I think from you as well, Ty, that, even at the start of the game, like, fans were still filling in. It was very willy-nilly. Like, this is a series. At the time, it was a very tight series. Now we're getting our asses kicked. But this is a series where the margins are razor thin, even though you got a number 1 versus a number 8 seed. And you need the crowd. And, like, I was very disappointed at the start of game 2, excuse me. But yeah, the Pistons still got the dub. That third quarter was so electric. You mentioned the huge run. I mean, third quarter in general, Pistons outscored the Magic 38-16. I feel like that was a quarter where, we're expecting that type of play for the entire series. And, we're expecting maybe a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. And, like, obviously the complete opposite has happened. The sky is falling. Like, we're going to break down games 3 and 4, but you expect that dominance that you see in the third quarter of game 2. We just haven't seen it, but I did like what I see in game 2. Obviously, Pistons 98, Magic 83. The defense was suffocating. The offense was good enough. Like, I feel like this has been a slugfest back and forth, and both teams have kind of been sporadic at times, not hitting shots. It's been sloppy. Game 4 was so sloppy. We'll break it down, but they did enough. I mean, 98 points was enough to win when the defense was suffocating. Cade was incredible. Shot 58% from the floor, 11 assists to go along with 7 turnovers. We're going to talk about Cade's turnovers, I think, quite a bit in this episode. It's been disgusting, but yeah, still 11 assists in game 2. He was insane. The rest of the team was just good enough. Like, Tobias Harris has been great all series. We're going to give Tobias his flowers. He's kind of the only guy that's been, like, the glue that's semi holding us together a little bit, but I did like the balance a little bit more in game 2. You had multiple guys in double figures. Duran with 11, Asar with 11, Robinson, who's been pretty awful this series. he had 10 points, Beefs who had 10. So it was a very balanced effort, and they got the job done. So that's what you needed to do, right the ship in game 2, going into Orlando. But yeah, we know what happened then. Any thoughts from you, game 2?
Yeah, game 2, I thought coming out of game 1, there was still a lot of rotation issues. We talked about Asar not really playing all that much, and I think everyone in the brother were like, okay, yeah, Asar is absolutely going to get his minutes, because it was obvious that like when he was in, the Magic struggled a little bit. So like I think JB figured out the rotation in game 2. I think that helped to it. I agree with you. I mean, like you said, when the game started, it was kind of empty, which is a little bit disheartening, but it at least filled in, like I said. And I'm only comparing the energy to last year's series, the game I went to last year against the Knicks. I was at that game almost a year ago now, where Tim Hardaway hit the 3-pointer at the end of the game, missed it, but got fouled. But then then there was a no call, and they literally just ushered the refs off the like that one. Obviously, it was a closer game, so like the energy was more palpable. So that was the only reason why I feel like the energy wasn't quite on par with that. But at the same time, like I think this game, like exactly what you said, this game was what we assumed the entire series was going to be. We dragged them down to the mud, and that was the thing about the Magic all year, is that like a lot of times they struggle in the half court, and we absolutely had them struggling in the half court. JB had a good rotations, good minutes, like you said. I mean, the numbers weren't pretty. We shot 23% from 3, 58% from the free throw line, which we get to here in a second. But all around, like just more balanced across the board in game 2. And exactly like you said, I mean, that's just what we needed to do. Moving into game 2 down to Orlando, game 3 down in Orlando, it was exactly like game 1. Like it was like we almost, an entire thing just started. Like we opened, as soon as the tip-off started, the Orlando Magic were already up by like 15 points, and it was the exact same thing as the first game. We were not rebounding. Jalen Duren was out of line consistently on defense. We weren't hitting any threes. They were getting hot from like everything about it. It was like, okay, did we just forget what went well in game 2 and just went immediately back to game 1? It was very, very frustrating. And then, I mean, you could even combine game 3 and game 4 together, because they were pretty much the same hell, you can combine game 1, game 3, and game 4, because it pretty much was all the same thing. Jalen Duren getting absolutely ran out of the building by Wendell Carter. You had Cade being an absolute turnover machine. You had nobody being able to shoot threes, and you had some weird minutes going on with, we had to get Paul Reed in there in game 3 because Isaiah Stewart was getting in fights and arguments, and Jalen Duren couldn't really play that much. So you had Paul Reed minutes. So game 1, 3, and 4 were pretty much all like just one continuous shit fest, and that's unfortunately where we are right now. I'm genuinely afraid when they come back to Detroit here in a few, tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Wednesday later tonight, that it's just gonna be more shit. You know what I mean,
dude? The biggest thing, and the thing that you called very early on, and it was no surprise, but this team, especially at the trade deadline, like we suck from 3. Like we can't shoot threes, we can't hit threes, and yeah, we always kind of thought that, if you run up against a team in the playoffs who can hit their threes, like in a game-to-game basis, I'm pretty worried. If it was if the Pistons were, let's say in a play-in game, I would hate that. But the fact that we're the number 1 seed and you have potentially a 7-game series, and in this case, we're hoping it goes 7. But, zooming out a little bit, you think that Detroit's defense, especially perimeter defense, and also, in interior, it's some of the best in the league, and you think like, okay, we're just going to beat the shit out of teams, and it's okay if maybe our 3-point shooting takes a bit of a back seat. Fast forward to now, holy shit, like, you could not have been more right, Tyler. Like, all of us as fans who are kind of screaming like, hey, we need more perimeter shooting, this team has flaws. Anyone who was shouting from the rooftops, you could not have been more right. Like, this team, that the flaws are showing, and, I give all the credit, I give so much credit to the Orlando Magic for exposing all of these flaws, and like I really do think it's been a coaching masterclass, and they're doing everything right, everything that we can't do. They're absolutely exposing us. Like they are crashing hard on the perimeter on Cade, double teaming him, like just making him so uncomfortable that Cade has to get rid of the ball. He's been really sloppy too. I will say a lot of our turnovers are unforced, which like we watch enough Michigan State basketball to see unforced turnovers, but you hope you don't see it in this stage, in this level of basketball in the NBA. Like, and yet I'm just seeing it. Like, just we have a fast break and Cade's throwing the ball at someone's legs. Like, you got like a 6'7" guy like running down the court. Don't throw the ball at his legs. Like this, we're not in 4th grade anymore, man. Like it's insane, dude. So many unforced turnovers. Like Cade in game 3. 9 assists, 9 turnovers. Like, that's just an insanely bad assist to turnover ratio, just not taking care of the ball at all. Cade 27 points, but it was inefficient 27 points. He's only shooting 35% from the field that game. I do want to say a couple bright spots in game 3. Tobias Harris, who I mentioned, 23 points, 50% from the field, 7 rebounds, only 1 turnover. Like, he has been our rock. Like, and it's funny, I don't want to bash on Tobias Harris, but a lot of times in the playoffs, like, not necessarily for the Pistons, but just in general in his career, he's kind of gone quiet in the playoffs. Like, when your team needs you most, if you're Tobias Harris, he goes quiet. And it's been the exact opposite this series. Like, he has been the guy for us. And, like, this is a series from Tobias where, like, if you get this kind of production from your veteran, like, you think, oh, man, this is gravy. Like, we're going to blow out this team. We're going to play so well. Like, you know, if you get average minutes from Tobias, you're probably doing well. And he's well above average. So Tobias has been great. Can't say enough good things about him. And then in game 3 specifically, Asar Thompson, he was really, really great. Like, that's the Asar that you need every single game. You know, your top 5 pick, your defensive menace who just has a very high motor. You know, for 17 points, 70% from the field, 8 boards and 5 blocks, like only 1 turnover. He's taking care of the ball. Like, he was so great. You get the rest of the role players. Like, there was just nothing, man. Like, Duren, 8 points, 30% from the field. Duncan Robinson, 10 points. He was 43% from 3, so he just wasn't taking that many shots in game 3. He didn't play a whole bunch, but like, he has just been kind of non-existent this whole series. And it's just not enough. Like, when you have an inefficient Cade and not enough supporting cast, or at least production from your supporting cast, you're probably going to lose the game. So again, all credit to the Magic, but we are also, you know, so many unforced turnovers. We're digging ourselves holes. We're playing like shit, playing with no heart. Like, it's a lot of self-inflicted wounds, and I think that's what hurts me the most.
I think what hurts me the most is like we're getting beat by a team. Like, I see so much of us in that, you know. So I love everything you just mentioned. I had so many thoughts on this. So going back to Cade, yeah, Cade had, I believe he had 24 turnovers in his last 3 games, which is is the most turnovers in a 3-game span in the playoffs since turnovers were officially tracked starting in 1970. Yeah, you're right. A lot of those are unforced. He's running up the court. He's just throwing at people's legs. He's, you know, making bad decisions. Everyone's kind of following his lead and making stupid passes that it's like, and honestly, it pisses me off watching it because then they just kind of like look at it and don't do anything. Like, it's stupid. But at the same time, on top of all those stupid turnovers, a lot of his turnovers are coming because if you look at, like, if you just like pause any offensive possession we have and Cade's driving the ball, there's 4 Orlando Magic guys in the paint because we have no spacing, because like you said, no one can shoot threes on this team, and we knew that coming into it. So they're just packing the paint, and it's forcing Cade into like a really difficult situation. So he's not helping himself with the stupid turnovers, but then at the same time, the way the roster is constructed and everyone else not being able to shoot, Duncan Robinson being absolutely horrendous this entire postseason, is making it that much more difficult on him. I mean, you look at the Magic, and the only thing I'll say, like, in support of Detroit, and I mentioned this last week, but this is not a normal Magic team. This is not a normal 8 seed. Like, if we lose, I think there's only been 6 1 seeds that have lost to 8 seeds in NBA history. I think like overall the record is like 151-6 or something like that. This is not a normal 8 seed. This is a team, I mentioned it last week, that in the preseason of the NBA, this was a dark horse to make the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, this was a team that were great on defense. They just needed 3-point shooting, and then they went absolutely all in with, 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, which was, at the time, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. So they went all in. So this was a good team. Now, all year, they went through injuries, and they just never found their footing. And so, like, it really does suck that we're going up against an 8 seed that, in my opinion, if they were healthy all year, at a minimum, they would have been a 4 seed. Maybe they give me a 3 seed. So, like, it's unfortunate. That's the only excuse I'll make for the Pistons, because they don't deserve any more than that. But you look at the Magic, and it's like, God, why can't we do like the game 1, if you remember, was like the Jalen Suggs game. Jalen Suggs brought the energy immediately out the gate. Jalen Suggs was diving for balls. He was hitting threes. He was literally taking our physicality to us as an undersized guard. And it was a Jalen Suggs game. Game 2 and game 3, Jalen Suggs really hasn't done all that much last night. And in game 4, he was terrible from 3-point range. And at the same time, other guys have stepped up. You had Paolo stepping up a game. You had Franz stepping up a game. Then when Franz went down during last night's game, you had other guys like a rookie or a former 2-way, I forget his name, Kane. Like, he stepped up. Like, the 2-way stepped up. It's like we have nobody that's stepping up, and they have one guy's having an off night. All right, well, let's get our 2-way guy to step up. Oh, that guy's having an off night. Let's get Franz, our 6'10", get a guy to take over in the fourth quarter. So, like, they're all teaming together to provide it, and to provide, to beat us. And it's so disheartening. I mean, it's frustrating. This team looks lazy. This team looks unengaged. Ron Holland didn't even log a minute last night, didn't play a coach's decision because we don't have any three-point shooting, Trajan. So you can't play another guy like Ron who can maybe provide some energy because we don't have three-point shooting, Trajan. So it's very, very frustrating. And we're not going to do an exit interview yet because there's still... The last time we played Orlando in the playoffs, we were down 3-1 against Tracy McGrady, and I think that was in like 04 or something like that, and we ended up coming back, beating them 3-1. So we're not going to do that until next week. There's still a lot left in the series, but like I said to start this segment, like I'm very worried it's just going to be a lot more of the same because Jalen Duren looks absolutely lost. Cade Cunningham looks disinterested. He looks like he forgot how to handle a basketball. Everyone else on the team doesn't know how to shoot three-pointers, and so I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, we're absolutely in trouble. I did see the odds. Pistons odds to win the series. It's only 2-1 right now. It's like plus 210. So for a team down 3-1, I would probably expect that to be higher. But again, it's a 1 seed down 3-1. So maybe that does make perfect sense. But it's not over, but it's almost over. It's this is bad. And I think only saving grace, and maybe loser talk, but this is definitely exposing a lot of our flaws that like I think can be righted. I think it's probably still, you know, 1 or 2 players away from this team being insanely good top to bottom. Like literally just you add a couple guys who can space the floor and still, you know, as long as they're not complete liabilities on defense, like this team can probably beat anyone. So I'm not going to say like, oh my God, we have to burn it to the ground if we lose to an 8 seed as a 1 seed. It is super embarrassing. I don't want to downplay that either. It's the most embarrassing thing possible in my book. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks dick, but there are things that could be worse. Like I think we'll be fine next year. But again, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Like Tyler said, we're not going to break down exit interview until next week at earliest. Hopefully not. But we broke down games 1 through 3. Game 4 last night, 2 nights ago, as you're listening to this. Orlando 94, Detroit 88. You know, Magic take that 3-1 lead. I think this game hurt, man. Like obviously game 1 hurt, game 3 hurt, but this one, game 4, like you know if you go down 3-1, the series is pretty much over. Even though you got 2 out of 3 left in Detroit, if games 6 and 7 are necessary, we hope they are. But yeah, this one just hurts so bad because you know the Pistons are up early, actually leading after the first 27-26, and then it just seems like they're up close to halftime. Like there's like 5 minutes left. Detroit's opening up like a 7, 8, 9 point lead, and you think, okay, like if we can just sustain at least like a 5-point lead at half, it's just something that we have not done this entire series. The entire series, it seems like we've been clawing from behind. It's been like third quarter, fourth quarter where we find ourselves down 7 points, cut it to 3, Magic answer. Like it's been like that. And you think like, okay, in game 4, you kind of have a bit of a command, and then you piss down your own leg the last like 4 minutes of the second half, the second quarter. Sorry, first half, and you let the Magic right back in. The Magic actually have a lead at halftime, and then it's the same old story that we've seen through games 1 through 3, where you can't quite claw your way back in. Like it's so frustrating. The team's just not playing well enough. Like it's been super sloppy once again. Like Cade had again another 8 turnovers in game 4. We shot like shit, but so did the Magic. Like this was such a winnable game. This is like that slugfest game 4 where like it's, you know, it could go either way, and it was tight at the end. Like don't get me wrong, it was certainly anyone's game, but guys not named Cade and Tobias physically could not put the ball in the basket, and even guys named Cade, you're shooting 30% from the field, 6 assists and 8 turnovers. Like that is so abysmal, man. Like, and yeah, you basically don't have any help. Asar Thompson 6 points, Duncan Robinson 7 points, Karis LeVert adds 2 off the bench. Like nice one, Karis. 20 turnovers as a team, same old song and dance. This team just can't take care of the ball. The Magic did just enough with Detroit's turnovers, you know, cashing them into points wherever possible. And another wasted Tobias Harris. Pretty good game. Like this might have been one of his worst of the series, and still has scored 20 points, 47% from the field, 6 boards. So he's doing his best, man. And no one else is out there even giving a shit, and it's really sad.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Tobias because Tobias has been so interesting. Yeah, he's had a really great postseason, but even you look at last night, he was 0 for 5 from 3, which is, you know, not like him. He's one of the better he's not a fantastic 3-point shooter, but he's one of the better 3-point shooters on his team. But there were multiple times, specifically as we opened up the second half and in the third and fourth quarter, in which we set up a wide open shot for him and he missed them. And it wasn't just him. Everyone on the floor was obviously missing 3-point shots. We shot just 20%. You mentioned even the Orlando Magic were terrible. Everyone not named Desmond Bane, which you knew he was going to get hot at some point. Again, he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. That's why they traded for him. And somehow Asar ended up still keep losing him on the court, and he ended up just destroying us. But even Tobias with 20 points ended the night with 0 for 5 from 3. The other thing that was really weird about this is been Isaiah Stewart's minutes. Now, Isaiah Stewart, we talked about it in game 1. He wasn't really assertive. In game 2, when we were at Detroit and we went on a 30-3 run, he was fantastic. He had a great game. Game 3, he ended up having that kind of gotten an argument. We're going into halftime with Gogo Biataze, and they got double technicals, I think. And then he didn't play almost the entire third quarter. And then this game, he was dominant on defense, has 8 blocks, which has to at least tie a franchise record in the playoffs, but only plays 17 minutes as opposed to Jalen Duren, who we've talked about just absolutely struggling all playoff series, playing 31 minutes. So, you know what? Isaiah Stewart he obviously has his temper. He's had injury issues. I don't know if either one of those played into his lack of minutes. And again, he kind of shot himself in the foot with getting in double technicals and not playing in the third quarter in game 3. But he was fantastic last night with 8 blocks. Like the defense, his defense was on point, and that's when we kind of felt like maybe the Pistons had a chance in this. And then Isaiah Stewart would come out, and subsequently Cade Cunningham would come in. Cade would turn the ball over. You know, our defense would be shit, and we'd find ourselves back down. We'd claw back to 2 points, 3 points, and then we'd suddenly find ourselves back down 8, 9 points. So I don't know what JB is doing with Isaiah Stewart. Again, I don't know if it's his injury history. I don't know if it's his temper that he's trying to not let the Magic take advantage of. I don't know if it's because just some weird thing he wants to get JD going. Isaiah Stewart's minutes has been very, very strange and hurtful this playoffs. I feel like
it's been very strange, and I don't know if some of it's maybe game script or game flow as well. Like if we're down, like, I mean, how many times have we been down 10 points coming out of a timeout, or, you know, whatever that might be. And you just know that Beef Stew, he's probably not adding that much for you on the offensive side of the court. I mean, obviously he does a little bit, but really he's that defensive presence, that rim protector presence. And so if you're down, it's maybe a bit harder to play him. So I don't know if that's like, you know, coming into play at all, or a lot of those other intangibles that you mentioned, but it's been a head scratcher, man. But I'm just curious. Like, I want to hear from you. I think we've broken down, you know, games 2 through 4, probably as best as we can. Is it over? Is there any chance for the Pistons in this series? And if so, like, what needs to change?
I think I don't want this to be loser talk. I think there's just naturally a chance we steal game 5 back in Detroit. I think we're good enough of a team to avoid a gentleman's sweep, and that's so shitty to have to say. I think the energy hopefully in Detroit will be great. I think we're too good of a team to be gentlemen swept, so I do think we steal game 5. But unless there's drastic changes, and that's just the dumbest thing about this is, like, all we have to do, like, yeah, the 3-point ball is not falling. Like, that sucks. But we have like, Duncan Robinson is a great shooter. Duncan Robinson, shooter's going to shoot, and eventually they will shoot themselves out of, or at least you hope they shoot themselves out of slumps. Duncan Robinson, at some point, you would think, is going to catch a little bit of traction. Javonte Green was the best corner 3-point shooter on this team throughout the entire year. He was shooting like 44% from the corner threes. He has been not very good 3-point shooting wise in this playoffs. You think at least some of the, at some point they should gain a little bit of traction. Cade Cunningham, we already mentioned his turnovers. You can't do much about it. Maybe if the 3-point shooting does start to fall a little bit, I don't think the Orlando Magic change their defensive philosophies on him. I think that they are still going to pack the paint and just like, hey, if Detroit's going to beat us, they're going to beat us on the perimeter. Duncan Robinson and Javonte Green are going to find their shot, and they're going to beat us that way. So like if they find their shot, it might help them a little bit, but you can't change that they're going to pack the paint. If Cade just kind of tightens up around the edges and in the margins and the stupid errors that, like, it's your 4th year in the league, my guy. You cannot be doing that. And that's what's most frustrating is that, like, this year, he hasn't done these things. These are things that Cade Cunningham has struggled with in the past, but he's been so good this year not doing it. It's like suddenly he's just, like, reverting back. So it's things that, like, you hope that the 3-point shooting falls maybe at least a little bit. You hope and think Cade can take care of the ball a little bit more. And it's like those small few things could put us right back in this series. Like, we've been in each of these games with playing with literal shit in our pants. So it's like you do those things. So I do think we take game 5. Again, I think we're too good to be gentlemen swept in this regard, especially having that come at home. Now game 6, I don't know, man. Like I said, you think it's small things that we can change to get ourselves right back into this. So like I do think there's a chance. I just don't see it happening. I just see this defense, or credit to Orlando, the on-ball pressure from the guards and the wings is unlike anything. And I watch a lot of basketball throughout the year, and obviously playoff basketball is different. But it's pressure that's unlike anything I've seen. So like I feel for these guys, and like they're struggling to get to get any sort of the rhythm because Orlando's right there on the ball. But I just don't see I see it being possible. I don't see us being able. That's a long-winded way to say. I think we take game 5 and then we get closed out in game 6.
Dude, and all credit to Orlando, to the Magic. They're physical. They have the length. You mentioned the perimeter. Like they're quite literally doing everything right. Like I'm not going to say they're playing a perfect series because they've had spots where they look horrible, just as horrible as the Pistons. But overall, like they're doing everything and more to win this series. And it shows, man. Up 3-1. For what it's worth, like Vegas. And granted, these Vegas lines have not meant anything. Pistons have been favored in every game, and we're down 3-1. But Vegas does have us at 10.5 point favorites in Detroit on Wednesday night. Tonight, as we're listening to this. So Vegas certainly thinks that this is going to go at least 6 games. The series is going to go back to Orlando. Orlando up 3-2 at that point. So, and I think then it's probably going to be more of a pick'em. I feel like the line has been Pistons -1.5, Pistons -2.5 for the games in Orlando. I think that's going to tighten up even more. You're probably going to see closer to a pick'em in game 6. So, I mean, is it inconceivable? No way. I mean, this is a 1 seed playing an 8 seed. So obviously if there was, a team in a position to, come back from a 3-1 deficit for, just the 7th time in NBA history, I think you mentioned, but, the Pistons are in that spot. But like I said, it's still 2-1 against them. Like it's not looking good to win 3 straight against a team who is pretty much kicked your ass for 3 out of 4 games. So I agree. I think definitely Pistons win on Wednesday. It's going to be a dogfight. Game 6 back in Orlando. I just think that the Magic shooting is like that intangible, and like call it intangible. It's like one of the most important things in basketball is shooting the fucking ball. So yeah, I think it's huge, and I think that a guy like Desmond Bane, even Paolo, who hasn't shot the ball too well, but he's been clutch in other ways. His assists have been great, but I think he gets it done. It just seems like the Magic want it more. And conversely, if I'm looking at the Pistons in a tight game, who do you want the ball? Like, who do you want to have the ball? Like, I would have said Cade, obviously, 1,000% of the time. Like, my life on the line, it's Cade shooting. If anyone that I have to pick on the Pistons, it's obviously Cade. I don't know if I could say that now. Like, he's clearly still rusty coming back from his injury, and he can't take care of the ball. I see the Pistons crumbling late in crunch time in Game 6 and the Magic winning the series. But with that being said, if somehow the Pistons can steal that game 6, I think Game 7 you have just an outstanding shot. You have all the momentum at that point. All the pressure is back shifted onto the Magic. I think that's another thing we haven't really talked about. Having the 1 seed is a ton of pressure for this young team that's still one of the youngest teams in the NBA. And so I do think that that's shown. And I think Duran even said it in an interview, like, the playoff pressure is real. And yeah, Jalen, we see it's real because you're playing like ass, my guy. But I do think we have a hell of a chance. If it gets to 7, I don't see it happening.
The shooting is important because you saw Desmond Bane. You saw it a little bit in Game 3. His shooting started to come around a little bit. And the first 2 games, he wasn't shooting the ball very well. And we had to take advantage of that because you knew he would. Obviously, like I said, Game 3, he started to come around a little bit. And then Game 4, he was 5 for 10 from the 3-point line. So, like, that scares me that he's starting to figure it out. Now, Franz Wagner went down with a calf strain during last night's game and Game 4 game. He's undergoing treatment. He's questionable for tomorrow night. Don't know. It's supposedly, depending on how he reacts to that treatment, he may play, he may not. That could change things because in the first 2 games, or at least Game 1 and Game 3, in the fourth quarter, when we were kind of crawling back and getting it back to 2 and 3 point deficits, it was Franz who took advantage in the fourth quarter. In both games, would go down and just being 6'10", was able to get whatever he wanted downhill and get a hard layup. Shout out to him. But without him and being able to close out games, there's a chance that, we have a little bit more of a chance. He might play, he might not. So it's important. The last thing I'll say, I want to get your opinion. What do you think has been the most disappointing storyline in this series so far? Would you consider it Cade and his turnover issues? Would you consider it Jalen Duren and his just disappearing act that he's had all playoff series? Has it been the 3-point shooting that was expected but still disappointed, even from our guys like Duncan Robinson who have shot the ball well? Is it the lack of like any Ron Holland, performance? What do you think is the most disappointing storyline from this series so far?
Yeah, dude, it's got to be Cade. I think it's not even particularly close. Like, yeah, I am disappointed with Jalen Duren, and for a guy who's an all-star, his play's been pretty unacceptable. But for me, like, I want to give Cade the benefit of the doubt coming back from the injury, but really, it seems like he's pretty much game speed 100%. Like I don't know what it is. If you have 8 turnovers in any single game, you're like, all right, you had an off day. But to average 8 turnovers in 4 straight playoff games, like when your team needs you most, and you're the guy. Maybe that's why there's just so much pressure on him. He's still a pretty young kid, but a 2-time all-star starter, all NBA caliber guy to average 8 turnovers in 4 straight games, like, I can't even put it into words, like how disappointing that is. And I know that he will bounce back from it, if not in this series. Like, I know it's not a long-term thing. We know Cade is still absolutely the guy. He's outstanding. And that's what makes it just more disappointing that in this 4-game stretch, when you have aspirations of making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe, making it to the NBA Finals, and all of a sudden, a week and a half later, you are down 3-1 to an 8 seed. It sucks. For me, Cade is the biggest disappointment. So I'm not going to say I'm sounding alarms for his future or the future of the Pistons or anything, but the here and now, it's very disappointing.
I think I'm with you on that, and that's been the most disheartening thing, because Jalen Duren had a great season, and we'll talk about it next week or maybe the week after if we continue in these playoffs, but like we'll talk about how this playoff run has affected the likely contract that will be offered to him. Regardless, though, like our Lord and Savior was Cade, and it's like, he is human. Like, there was a run where like Cade is the best athlete in Detroit, hands down. Like, in my opinion, and it's debatable, but like whether it was him or Derrick Skubal, but in my opinion, like I was like, oh, it's Cade. Like, he's our Lord and Savior. And it's like, okay, yeah, he actually is. It's really been like, God, like I don't want to be so mad at Cade, but I am, just because it's not only that he's playing poorly, but he's just like lackadaisical and throwing passes and being stupid with the ball and stuff like that. And like I said, he kind of sets that tone. So when he starts doing things like that, I almost guarantee if he were to lock that stuff down, a lot of the other team would. So I'm right there with you. And that, like, the most disheartening storyline from this playoffs has been Aiden, his turnover issues that have resurfaced. So we're going to go to a quick break in a second and then get a little bit more cheerful, jump to the Lions and their draft. But anything in closing you got on the Pistons? Any words to say to the boys?
Just that it's not over, man. Like, if there's a team that can claw their way back, it's just a gritty smash mouth team like the Pistons, but they have to get back to playing Pistons basketball. Like, this is 4 straight games of playing the furthest from Detroit grit basketball. I haven't seen a single ounce of grit other than a few good performances from Beef Stew and a few others that we already mentioned. But in general, just claw your way back, one game at a time. Don't go down. I mean, absolutely have to win Game 5, and then just put a fucking good effort in Game 6 and give us something. Give us a tight game in the 4th quarter. Anything can happen. And then, if you get to Game 7, I think we're looking good. So it ain't over, but you can't go down quiet if you're the Pistons. Like, you gotta go down fighting.
Yep, let's go, boys. Hell yeah. Okay, let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, like I said, we're going to get a little more cheery. We're going to talk about the Detroit Lions and their draft haul, what we think of the picks, who we think is going to pop off, everything of that nature. All right, we are back. We're done talking about the Pistons. Hopefully, we can continue talking about the Pistons next week and not do an exit interview. Hopefully, we have more series to be reviewing. If not, like I said, we'll be breaking down exit interviews. Same we did with Michigan State, where the team needs to go from here, what we need to do. But in the meantime, like we said last week, it was such a packed episode because we broke down all the guys that the Lions could go with. We broke down the Pistons. We kind of have the same thing to do on this side. We have the Detroit Lions draft class that ended up coming through. So in total, the Detroit Lions selected at number 17, Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson. Derrick Moore, the edge player from Michigan, Jimmy Roller, linebacker, also from Michigan, Keith Abney, the second cornerback from Arizona State, Kendrick Law, wide receiver from Kentucky, Skylar Gill Howard, defensive tackle from Texas Tech, and then Tyree West, an edge player out of Tennessee. Additionally, not to be forgotten, some undrafted free agents the Lions also signed. So we had QB Luke Altmaier from Illinois, tight end Miles Kitzelman from Tennessee, guard Melvin Presley from Illinois, edge Eric O'Neill out of Rutgers, edge Anthony Lucas from USC, defensive tackle Aiden, not even going to be able to pronounce this last name. Apologize to Aiden there out of Cal, linebacker Eric Hunter out of Morgan State, Deshaun Rucker out of USF, and then defensive back Amarius Brown out of UNLV. It's a lot of guys. Let's focus on our first few rounds, though, and then we can talk about the backgrounds of a few of those guys. Overall, starting out the night with Blake Miller, guy we broke down last week. The board fell in an interesting way. You had the Dolphins, I think, trading up to take Caden Proctor, who was a lot of times drafted to Detroit. Monroe Freeling, your guy, who was, we talked about last week, was still on the board. Detroit ends up going with Blake Miller. Thoughts on the Iron Man that is Blake Miller out of Clemson?
Yeah, I love the pick. We'll get into it, but I just want to say before we do, can we just give one more round of applause to you, Tyler, for just nailing the first and second round picks? Just predicting Blake Miller in round 1, Derrick Moore round 2. That's no short feat, man. That's something that most quote unquote experts and sports talking heads could not have done. So props to you for going 2 for 2. I think Tik Tok was loving it. We gained 10 followers, 15 followers from that. That's all on your back, man. So if it's sore, if it's hurting, thank you for your service. But Blake Miller, round 1, pick 17. This guy, he's a warrior, man. 6'7", 318 pounds, 54 career starts, 9.9 on the RAS raw athletic scale. So he's an athletic freak. He is just a journeyman who, he can break a wrist and he's still back at practice the next day. He is quite literally everything that the Lions need, and I think that's exactly what you broke down in last week's episode. This is a guy that he is the most NFL ready, probably of any of these offensive tackles. Certainly the offensive tackles that were slotted to go in that 15 to 30 range, which obviously was where the Lions were picking. So this guy was absolutely ready to go. He's plug and play. Yes, he is going to have to compete for that right tackle spot or left tackle spot. It's still to be seen if Penei Sewell is going to move over to the left side, or maybe they move Blake Miller over. I think it probably makes more sense to have Penei move over. He's just the more agile, athletic guy. He's played more left tackle. So, but that's not for me to decide. Either way, Blake Miller, he is NFL ready right now to step in, and that's exactly what you needed. You needed to fix this offensive line. Needed to get a little bit more continuity. Last season was an absolute train wreck. You couldn't run the ball, even though you have probably the best running back in the league. You couldn't protect Jared Goff. So what do? You go out, revamp your center. You get Cade Mays. You take Blake Miller. You hope for guys to take steps forward like Tate Rutledge and completely revamp that offensive line. And I think the Lions did just that, exactly what they needed to do. If I had to give a grade to round 1, just a solid B+. This is exactly what you needed. You didn't need to take the big swing, even though, I loved Monroe Freeling. I liked the prospect of taking a big swing on a guy who probably has more of a ceiling. But in this case, the Lions played it safe, man. And I think it is the right call. Just an absolute gritty journeyman who's going to give you 17 games a season in and season out, and I really like that.
I'm pretty sure Dan Campbell already came out and said that Penei will be moving and Blake will stay on the right side. 97% of Blake's snaps in college came at right tackle, so it makes 100% sense. That's what you have to do. We broke down Blake last week in a lot more detail and the possibility there, but it 100% was the right call. And there were some people online a little bit mad about this, and I think it's because it's not a sexy pick, and it's not like we said, it's not the guy that at the end of the day, he might not. It's very safe to say he probably doesn't have the best career out of all the offensive tackles in this first round. There's a very good chance that Caden Proctor puts it all together in 4 or 5 years and he's a fantastic offensive tackle. There's a chance that Monroe Freeling, like I said, in 3, 4, 5 years, puts it all together and is able to use all his intangibles and have a great career. But 100% for all the people that were mad about this pick because it wasn't sexy, this was the right pick. This is a guy that we don't have to wait on. Like maybe he'll round about in, in 3-4 years and be really good. This is a guy you're going to plug in immediately. He's going to be your guy. Your offensive line is now absolutely locked down, and I feel very confident in it. You mentioned Rutledge, excuse me. Now we're definitely relying on some of these guys to take some steps next year, right? Like Cade Mays, you're expecting to come in, be able to pick up center is a very important position. You hope that he can get on the same page with Jared and doesn't really skip a beat, or if anything gets a little bit better in the system. So you're kind of relying on that a little bit. You're relying on Tate to get better on the right side. You're relying on Christian Mahogany coming back and having, building upon a nice young career. You're relying on Blake coming in and being the Iron Man that he was. I think it was like 54 straight starts or something from him. So you're relying on a lot of things, but I think those are all very safe bets to happen. And if they are just level set, I think that's a good offensive line. If they all hit their stride, we're upwards of great offensive line. So this was 100% the right call. Blake's the guy. Blake's a Dan Campbell guy. They seem fire up to get him. Like we said, the board played out in that like Caden Proctor was taken before us. There's no chance for us to get him. I don't think we would have really swung. He doesn't really seem like a Dan Campbell guy. We didn't really go over him last week. He was the offensive lineman out of Alabama. Some concerns on his size, whether he'd be better off at guard or tackle, some character concerns and like effort concerns. So like kind of surprising that so many people were mocking him to us just because it doesn't really seem like a Dan Campbell guy. But then the Monroe Freely stuff, like you broke down last week, like that makes sense as well. So we had our choice with both the guys and they ended up going with Blake. I'm super happy about it. I think he has the size. I think he has the smart. He has the toughness. He has the health. Your best ability is availability. I think he has all the intangibles to be really, really good for this team. So I'm really happy for it. Like I said, I'm surprised so many people were not so happy about it. But naturally, fans are, myself included, we're dumb, stupid fans and we're passionate. So I get that. I'm happy about it.
Just one more piece on Blake Miller. This I think speaks a lot to it in today's day and age where guys are sitting out of every and any bowl game, you can't, Senior Bowl, whatever, you don't want to get injured. Like Clemson went 7-5 last season. They're playing in the Pinstripe Bowl, and Blake Miller decides not to opt out. He's going to play one more time, one last ride with his boys, his absolute dogs, keep that starting streak alive. I think that says a lot about a guy. I think that's exactly it, and even if that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, it probably doesn't. But it's those little intangibles that that. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, like they're looking for guys like that are going to ride and die for your boys. Because maybe that ounce of juice is the difference in making one more block in a game that springs a guy and you score a touchdown and make the playoffs, for God's sake, because we didn't make it last year. So you never know when that little piece of grit is going to matter the most. And so I really like that from Blake Miller.
Yeah, absolutely. He just shows that. So moving into the second round, we have the Derrick Moore, the second pick out of Michigan, edge player, 6'4", 255 pounds. Derrick Moore, obviously, like you mentioned to start the segment, I picked us to select him. Now, we obviously had to trade up to get him. I didn't see that coming, but you break it down, right behind us were the Ravens. Obviously, Jesse Minter is with the Ravens now. Jesse Minter was the defensive coordinator for Derrick Moore at Michigan. And it sounds like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes really like Derrick Moore, and it makes sense. I mean, the Ravens were in the market for an edge player. They end up taking an edge player, so we end up trading to jump over him. Obviously, they just assumed Jesse Minter was going to be taking Derrick Moore. We wanted Derrick Moore, so they traded up to get him. And then obviously Zion Young went right behind us, so it really makes sense that the Ravens were probably about to take Derrick Moore, which is why we traded up. I didn't see that coming, but they just really liked the guy. They didn't want the Ravens to get him. I think forever. It's always like one or two guys that like get drafted around each other that get linked together. I think Derrick Moore, at least in my mind, and Zion Young will be linked together moving forward because I thought technically Zion Young had a higher draft ranking than Derrick Moore. And we obviously like Derrick Moore. No pun intended. Derrick Moore more. And that's why I went up to get him. So those guys will always be linked to me for me. But I mean, Derrick Moore at 10 sacks for Michigan. Again, we broke him down last week as well. Really long arms, so you do worry about a little bit. Like, was a lot of his success just based on that he was a little bit bigger than a lot of the offensive tackles and offensive guards in the college level? Will he be able to have that same success in the NFL? You look at some of his numbers. A lot of his production came against teams that were lower competition, and then when he kind of came against the Texases and, the bigger teams, he kind of had a tendency to fade in the background. So you worry about that a little bit, but I think this is very similar to Blake Miller, exactly like we broke down last week. And that, he may fall in the background a little bit, but because he doesn't necessarily do one or two things perfect, he does a lot of things really good. I think he immediately, in my opinion, is going to be that rotational edge guy opposite Aiden Hutchinson. You probably have DJ Wanham in there a little bit just because we traded for him. I think neither one of those guys are full-time starters. So I think having a combination of the two of them is what we're going to be doing, with the edge going to Derrick, getting maybe a little bit more playing time just because he's younger. He's more of the future of the position. But I like the Derrick Moore pick. Like I said, I thought Zion Young maybe was a little bit better pick, but they obviously liked him enough to trade up for him. So I'm super happy.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You just have the natural synergies with a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, both Michigan guys, that natural chemistry there, high production. You mentioned that maybe a lot of it's coming from maybe the lesser teams in the Big Ten. He's probably getting just sacks on sacks against Aiden Childs. I don't know that, but probably. But yeah, 21 career sacks at Michigan, 10 in his final season. So there's a lot of really good production there. I think Brad Holmes was quoted saying he was the top edge rusher left on our board. So again, you're probably always going to say that about the guy you pick, but at the end of the day, we're trading up because we think the Ravens are gonna take an edge, and like you broke down, they absolutely did. So I like it a lot. It makes a ton of sense. This is the same thing with Blake Miller, where very high floor guy, a guy that again you can't pick an edge rusher that might have a bit more upside, but might take like a year, 2 years, 3 years to really come into his own. This is a Detroit Lions team that the window is here, the window is now. You need to get back to the playoffs. You need to make another deep run in the playoffs now, while you have your young core that's only getting older by the years. So definitely in win now mode, you want a guy with a high floor, a guy that I totally agree with you. Like he's obviously not going to be a first round talent in Aiden Hutchinson, because you don't need that. You have Aiden Hutchinson. You need a guy who's just going to be a solid rotational piece alongside Aiden, rotating him in and out with a few other guys, as you mentioned. And then you still obviously could spend some draft capital next year, the year after, and continue to build out this defensive end room, because I still think it's probably a little thin, but you did the first step, and that was to use one of your first two picks to get an edge rusher. And I think it's another very, very solid pick. Like, is it a home run? Maybe not, because you had to trade up for it. So, that value might not necessarily be there. But again, like we know how Brad Holmes operates. Like, he doesn't give a shit about value. Like, he's going to get his guys. He's going to take them wherever they might fall on the board. And if he thinks they're not going to fall, he's going to make a move. And I really do commend him for that. So I'm giving this another just solid B+. Like, you didn't try to do too much. You just got your guy. And I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, I realized I didn't give the Blake Miller a rating. I'm going to give the B+ as well. They went out and they got their guy. I think he's not an A because he's not going to blow it, stats out of the water. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but I think he's very solid. Derrick Moore, I'm going to give just a solid B, just because I would have been okay with Zion Young falling to us and not having to trade up for Derrick. But obviously, like we said, they really like him. If nothing else, he led the Big Ten and was 10th among all eligible players in FBS with 17.5% pass rusher rating in 2025. The Lions were one of the worst pass rushing teams in the entire NFL. We were decent with sacks, but that was mostly coverage sacks, and that eventually our linemen got home, and so we weren't very quick to the quarterback. So if nothing else, he can try and prevent that. And I like what you mentioned about maybe this was the first step, taking a high draft round guy on the edge. We can add more next year, but there's also a decent amount of edge players out there in free agency still. You still have guys like Joey Bosa's still out there, Von Miller's still out there, Cam Jordan's still out there, Hassan Reddick's still out there, and those are all older guys, and maybe they're only playing third downs, but if you still don't think you maybe have all the pieces, I highly doubt any of this happens, because I feel like the Lions are pretty high on DJ Wanham for some reason, but there's still some other guys out there that very well could come in and literally play four third downs a game and try and make a difference, because they've proven in their careers that they've been able to do that. So, I'm with you. I give this one a B, not a B+, just because I would have been okay with Zion Young and not trading up to get him, but they obviously like their guy. He 100% was going to go to the Ravens next, so they wanted to get him and not give that chance. I think he's going to step in right away, and two very, very high floor contribute right now players in the first two rounds.
Hell yeah. Love it. Let's how are we doing on time? I think we really should break down these next couple of picks. Maybe not quite as much in depth, but round 4, pick 118, Jimmy Rolder, another Michigan man, and then round 5, pick 157, Keith Abney, the second cornerback from Arizona State. I think that both. I do like both. I think let's start with Roller. Let's just go in order. Just you have Alex Anzalone leaving for the Bucks. You do need to fill that void. Again, this is another guy who like just is going to be a solid rotational piece. He's aggressive, attacking style is pretty much perfect for a Dan Campbell team, a Dan Campbell defense. He's just a physical linebacker, and that just screams Detroit Lion. And so again, another Michigan product. So I mean, this Michigan program, like, say what you want about anything off field or anything happening, but they do pride themselves on defense, and they have a lot of gritty guys who really match up pretty nicely with the Detroit Lions playing style. So another one that made a lot of sense. And in the 4th round, I think you're totally fine taking a linebacker position that's not necessarily as sexy or as premier as like a tackle or an edge rusher. But I do think they still got some pretty good value here for a guy who, again, not going to have a ton of ceiling, but just a nice rotational depth piece, and a guy who can fill at least some of the void from the departure of Anzalone. So I do like this pick.
I think both Jimmy and Keith Abney are both very aggressive players. Jimmy is immediately going to contribute on special teams. Like you mentioned, he's a downhill, violent player. You lost one of your best special teams players in Grant Stewart. He was a former captain this past year, so I think Jimmy could step in and be a fantastic special teams player and rotational guy. He can maybe get see the floor, the field a little bit on the actual defensive side, but a violent downhill player. I really like Keith Abney. Keith Abney was a steal of the draft for me. He was a guy that had a potential 2nd round grade on him, and he fell somehow all the way to the 5th. He's a little bit handsy, which is a little bit concerning because we already have that in Terry and Arnold, but he's a guy that you're okay with the handsiness because he's so aggressive. He's able to do what he can do. He's a little bit undersized out of Arizona State, but I think he's absolutely the steal of the draft across any team, really. It's a really fantastic value there. I think he's immediately going to step in and force some playing time. He can play the nickel if we need to, that Amik Robertson position that we lost. So I love that pick. The last 3 guys there, Kendrick Law, Skylar Gale-Howard, and then Tyree West. Kind of surprising, the Lions went with a receiver in Kendrick Law, a former Alabama player, transferred to Kentucky. Kind of surprising a little bit there. They obviously like his big play ability there. Skylar Gale-Howard, I think, is somebody that was also a very slept-on player. Dealt with injuries a little bit throughout the year that kind of limited his tape that was out there, but I think he's someone that's going to be an absolute pest as a defensive tackle here, in the NFL. He's a little bit undersized, but I think he's someone that's really good and had really potential. Had he been healthy, he definitely would have been higher than a 6th round pick this past year. So I think he's a really good sleeper there. And, I'm happy they're just kind of doubling down on defensive tackle and edge, just saying like one of these guys got to stick. And like I said, I like Skylar Gale-Howard.
Yeah, dude, we mentioned it, but like your 5th round, 6th round, certainly your 2nd round picks, like 7th round picks, I should say. You're throwing darts at the dartboard and hoping that something sticks. And another position of need, certainly, if nothing else from a depth perspective, defensive tackle. I like that they're using these late round picks on some D tackles. Hopefully at least one of the guys is going to pan out, and obviously you're probably not going to find your absolute diamond in the rough day one starter or anything like that, but certainly a rotational piece in those later rounds. It's not far-fetched at all. So I like what we're doing here. I will say the round 5 pick, Kendrick Law, I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't know why. The Lions actually traded up to take Kendrick Law. It just seems like for me, he's a guy who, his average depth target at Kentucky, 3.4 yards. Like, this is a guy who he's catching the ball near the line of scrimmage. Yes, he has blazing speed, is very good. So he does have that home run potential, but his route tree just isn't there for me. He's not a guy who you can, potentially line up outside or he's basically just going to run quick slants for you. And so I didn't really see that as something that the Lions necessarily needed. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's already in the slot, who's the best slot receiver on earth. So yeah, that was puzzling for me. I think that's our worst pick by far. But the rest of these picks, they scream value, they scream high floor, they scream guys who are ready to contribute right now and help this team get back to the playoffs and make a deep run in the playoffs. And that's exactly what this Lions team needed. So overall, I'm pretty ecstatic.
The only thing, maybe they're looking at Law as being a Khalif Raymond replacement as a return man with his blazing speed. Yet to be seen there. But then just before we wrap up the show, like I mentioned, the undrafted free agents that we signed, we got our backup QB in Luke Altmaier, or backup potentially to compete there. We mentioned needing a tight end last week when we saw guys like, Sam Laporta went down, Shane Zylstra went down, Brock Wright went down, so we ended up getting another tight end, which I'm happy about. End up taking the edge that I mentioned last week as a late round flyer. I liked him last week. Anthony Lucas out of USC, guy who didn't have much production, but has the overall size and is just an absolute wrecking ball out of USC. So we ended up signing him to a deal. And then Eric Hunter is one of the other ones, linebacker out of Morgan State, a guy who also battled injuries, but had he have not had injuries towards the end of his career, his college career, would have fallen in the draft somewhere. Lions actually, I believe, signed into a 3-year deal already out the gate, which is very surprising for an undrafted free agency. So that tells me, A, there was other teams that also wanted to sign him, and B, we have big plans for him. So keep an eye on Eric Hunter out of Morgan State to make this roster and to contribute in some way, more so than a UDFA probably would moving forward. Overall, though, overall grade of the draft, real quick before we get to grade of the week. Overall grade for the draft.
I think it's easy for me. Like, I think I gave enough B pluses across the board that, like, no matter if I hated that law pick, like, it's still a B plus for me. Again, we didn't try to outsmart anyone. We didn't try to be the smartest guy in the room, taking the guy who has the most high ceiling, and just did everything that the Lions needed to win right now. I mean, I can't say it enough that, like, this team needs to get back to the playoffs. This team needs to get back to a deep run, another NFC Championship game. Like, the city is just craving for a Super Bowl, and you don't do that by having a window and then just trying to swing for the fences. You take guys who are going to contribute and help you right now. And so I just thought it was very, very solid. It's not going to be an A for me because, again, a couple times trading up, spending some draft capital to trade up, I think you're losing a little value. But again, Brad Holmes says, fuck your value. Like, he doesn't care about that. And to an extent, neither do I. I think it was just a really solid draft, solid picks.
100%. I'm going to say the exact same thing. I just think I can't give it an A just because it's not like we end up getting the steals of the draft. We had a really good steal in Keith Abney, but a lot of the other guys were just kind of exactly what we needed. So I'm going to go B plus as well. So shout out to the boys. Shout out to Brad Holmes for once actually kind of doing what people thought would happen and end up having a really good draft there. So, okay, let's wrap up our show. It's been a long one for you guys with Grit of the Week. As always, guys, Grit of the Week is brought to you by Pins and Aces. Pins and Aces, a Colorado-based golf company. These guys, they provide head covers. Pins and Aces are really where they made their mark. Each one's hand-stitched with ultra-durable materials, jaw-dropping themes, from barbecue menus to Augusta florals. The golf bags match in both performance and personality. This is stuff that's made from weather-resistant synthetic leather, equipped with travel protection, and finished with a clean, modern design that sets you apart from the crowd. Weather's getting warmer here in Michigan. Go out and get your stuff from Pins and Aces. 21% off to our listeners using promo code GRIT, that's GRIT, at checkout. 21% off at pinsandaces.com. My Grit of the Week, someone that we've given it to before in the past, but it's someone that just continuously, I mean, in my opinion, has been the best rookie of all Detroit sports in quite some time. That's going to be Kevin McGonigal. Wow. Just to read off some leaders, some rookie leaders in the MLB right now. So leader of runs, 22 runs, Kevin McGonigal. Leader of average at the moment, 330, Kevin McGonigal. Leader OBP, Kevin McGonigal, 423. Leader of WOBA, Kevin McGonigal at 419. Leader of XWOBA, Kevin McGonigal. Leader of WRC Plus, Kevin McGonigal. FWAR, Kevin McGonigal. Hits, Kevin McGonigal with 35. Doubles, Kevin McGonigal with 11. OPS, Kevin McGonigal with 951. Pretty much every batting statistic at the moment, not just for rookies, but just batters in general, Kevin McGonigal is leading the way. Like, we're not talking about an offensive rookie of the year. We're talking about MVP status with him. And that's something that, like, you expect, and I'm sure sometime it's going to happen, but, like, you expect these guys to come up and struggle a little bit. Colt Keith, we awarded him, a 6-year deal before he even played a game for the Tigers, and he went through his struggles. And Colt Keith's playing really good this year, but he came up, went through his struggles like any rookie would. I haven't seen a rookie hit the ground running and just be a team's best player, especially here in Detroit, as much as Kevin has this year. It's we need this. With everything else going on in Detroit and Michigan State sports, damn it, we need this. So Kevin McGonigal gets my Grit of the Week.
It's the Paul Rudd meme. Like, look at us. Like, who would have thought? Who would have thought we have just a rookie who just is just coming out of the gates? Side note, by the way, like, you were just rattling off all of his metrics and how he's first in every category. I feel like if you just put like 4 random letters together and say, then a stat after it, and you're like, oh, this guy is just incredible at WRA++7. Like, I don't know what any of those meant, but like the fact that guys way smarter than me are tracking these stats, and McGonigal is first in all of them. It makes me feel really good. So shout out Kev, shout out McGonigal. He's incredible. I was thinking about giving another grid of the week to him as well. I think I've already given like 5 to him somehow. Like, he's prolific, he's insane, he's our guy. I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, I'm already moving on from the Pistons. I'm not, but like it is nice to know that you at least have Kevin McGonigal just absolutely raking in his rookie season. I'm sticking on the diamond. My grid of the week, Spenny Torkelson, baby. Spencer Torkelson, after just the slowest start in the history of slow starts, and you're thinking like, here we go again, like we got to send this guy down, maybe for good, maybe get rid of him for good, not to overreact. And then Torque goes torque bomb 5 games in a row, 5 dingers in 5 games, gets his OPS from an abysmal like 500 maybe, all the way up to 836 OPS. He is well on pace for now just an incredible OPS. If he season ended right now, it would be his best OPS to date. He's figured something out. And the big thing for me, he's hitting fastballs, and that's something that like this season and in general, fastballs in the zone for whatever reason, like Torkelson just has not been able to time them up. He's really struggled in his career, and especially this season, strikeouts galore, can't hit the fastball. I think that the majority, if not all of these homers are coming on fastballs in the zone. So clearly something has clicked for him. Granted, small sample size, but you hit 5 dingers in 5 games. You're getting grid of the week from me, damn it. So yeah, Spenny Torkelson, grid of the week, baby.
He had the soft benching, and like you said, people were wondering, was this going to be it for him? Was he can't really be sent down again. We already did the whole send him down for over a month, and he came back, and he's up and down. Never know what you're going to get with him, but yeah, over his last 5 games, he has 21 plate appearances. He's hitting .421 in those 21 plate appearances. You already mentioned his 5 home runs, 3 doubles, 8 hits, 0 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, but still 5 home runs. I think he tied the franchise record for games in a row with a home run. He's hopefully Tigers are playing right now against the Braves. Hopefully he can continue that. He's been fantastic. His defense needs to pick it up a little bit, but like at this point, just hit his home runs and we're just happy he's hitting fastballs, like you said. So shout out to Spencer Torkelson, grid of the week. Shout out Kevin McGonigal, grid of the week. Shout out to, Riley Green, a mini grid of the week. He's batting really well. He's up over 300 now after a slow start. So shout out to the boys on the diamond, giving us a little bit of hope moving forward. Right before I do close out the show, we do have breaking news real quick. The Detroit Lions have picked up Jahmyr Gibbs' 5th-year option and have declined Jack Campbell's 5th-year option.
Wow.
So interesting news there. It kind of makes sense. We have a lot of guys to pay. You don't need to pay Jack Campbell right now. I have a feeling they're going to end up paying him, but just kind of interesting picking up Jahmyr Gibbs and letting Jack play the season out, and then probably work on getting his contract down the line or further sooner than Jahmyr Gibbs and just not right now. So interesting stuff out there.
We can definitely break it down more next week's episode. That's interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. I think either way, you got both these absolute studs playing this season. It's going to be a fun season. I can't wait. I'm wearing my Detroit Grit shirt. Like, can't wait for football season. Again, I don't want to bash the Pistons more than we already have. We're certainly not moving on yet. The season is not over, but like, God, I need football so bad now. I need it more than ever. I'm clinging to any NL hope right now. But yeah, let's go Lions, go Pistons. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, we'll break it down more next week, but I'm sure this has to do just more so not having to pay them at the same time. I think both of them here are long term. But okay, that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report. You can find us on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can follow these full-length episodes on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. Let us know your thoughts on this Pistons series, whether we're winning and we have more Pistons to talk about next week, or whether we lose and we're doing our exit interview. Call this hotline. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll play it and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And then finally, if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying so. Follow us on all forms of social media. We're putting out clips every single week. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Please let's go Pistons.
Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Soon in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.